Hey, what is going on, guys? This is the SS Ultimate Goku back with another video, and you know, uh, today I'm gonna be doing a rant. This is a rant, yes, because it needs to be. It needs to be. It needs to be kind of put out there, um, because this concept that AEW introduced, is incredibly stupid and they need to not do it anymore going forward. Um, and I'm talking about the quote unquote interim champions. Um, now it's a good idea on paper, but it's a bad idea reality in the sport of professional wrestling. And I'm going to say this right now. I'm going to tell you guys right now, it is just not a good concept in pro wrestling. And this is the reason why no one has done it before until AEW. Um, Now, if they innovated this concept maybe 40 years ago during the kayfabe era, during the time when people believed wrestling was real and not predetermined, of course, it might have worked. But we're in a day and age now where people know that wrestling is predetermined. I don't think there's any person on this planet that truly believes that wrestling is real at this point anymore. It's predetermined. It's um, but obviously the athletes still go through a lot, and injuries happen and whatnot, and they bust their ass for our entertainment, and that should be you can't take that away. Um, but here's the thing here. Here's the whole thing of why the concept of an interim champion in professional wrestling does not work. Okay, so a lot of people bring up the whole thing that, well, Tony Khan wants to make it more sport oriented. He wants to make it more of, a sport, which that's going to be impossible to do because unfortunately most people don't see it as a sport anymore. I see it as a sport, but the general public doesn't anymore. Okay, that's just the reality now. Unfortunately, I've had heated debates about this, but the reality is people don't see it that way anymore. You can present it more as a sport, which is what Tony Khan does, but the concept of an interim thing doesn't work because of the simple fact. Let's go to the concept of what an interim champion is, okay? And let's go to the origins of an interim champion, okay? So the reason why Tony Khan is fixated on an interim champion is because of MMA. So in MMA, if somebody gets injured to the point where they can't compete for a reasonable amount of time, most notably UFC and MMA, or I'm sorry, Bellator, the most notable, fighting organizations out there. The biggest thing is if you miss an extended amount of time in UFC or Bellator, they will basically crown an interim champion in that weight division. And then once the actual champion is ready to go, they will do a fight between that interim champion and the winner is the unified champion, basically. Okay, so it's good in theory. So what's the difference between what UFC does for an interim champion versus what AEW in professional wrestling does for an interim champion that makes it different? Well, here's the thing. Here's why it's different. In the UFC, most of these top tier stars, not like the newer guys, but like the top draw stars in UFC, they're only going to be fighting for maybe 3 times a year, if that or less. Sometimes only 2 times a year. Okay, so fighters don't really actually, at least the top draws. You're not going to see Conor McGregor fighting like 10 times a year at this point in the game. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to see those top UFC fighters fighting 10 times a year. Professional wrestlers, on the other hand, okay, the moment they win a championship on a pay-per-view, they're wrestling the next day. They're wrestling or in AEW's case, the next Wednesday following the pay-per-view. They're wrestling at least 5 times a month, even with the limited schedule that AEW has, because obviously AEW doesn't do house shows and stuff like that. They just do, their TV events, Dynamite, Rampage, and then a pay-per-view if it's, on Saturday and Sunday, if it's, if they're on for that week for the pay-per-view. So they do that once a month. Well, actually, no, that's actually further than a month. For them, because they only do, I think, 5 pay-per-views now, because I gotta include the Forbidden Door, because that is now an official pay-per-view, so that means they are doing 5 pay-per-views now. Before this year, they did 4. So the thing is, these pay-per-views and these events are limited compared to WWE's schedule. But nonetheless, if you're a top-tier star, if you're someone that's going to be in the storylines every week, you're most likely going to be wrestling, 4 times a month, okay, for AEW. So, because of that, you're wrestling all the time, where in UFC, you might fight 2, 3, 4, I think at the most, if you're a top UFC fighter, especially if you're the champion. You're not going to be fighting you're not going to be fighting 60 times a year, wrestlers, that's nothing for a wrestler. I mean, obviously WWE schedule, that's probably going to be a lot, but maybe in AEW it's much less than that, because again, they don't have the house shows and stuff like that. But still, they're still, even with a limited schedule that the AEW has, they're still going to have a lot of matches, compared to what UFC does. Obviously UFC, they don't have a decided winner beforehand, but that's irrelevant to this point. Okay. It still points out that, that the wrestlers are going to be doing more in a time span. And that's going to, hurt their bodies, and, injuries can happen at any time in wrestling, as we all know. And so when someone gets injured and you're the champion, you have to vacate the title. We don't know how long you're going to come back. And again, you're wrestling every week. You're expected to defend the titles at either the next pay-per-view or the AEW Dynamite special event. They have special Dynamite events, sometimes every month too. So those are going to be very important, where you have to defend the titles. So this is why the whole concept of an interim champion does not work, because the guy that's injured could be out for a year, and then you're going to have some guy who's the interim champion for a year that's defending the title and is not actually officially recognized as champion, because in the record book, they're not recognized as the official champion. So basically, they're the second champion, basically. They're not the official champion. Okay, so if someone's out for a year, their entitled title run is irrelevant, because they weren't an official champion. According to AEW's record books, the interim champion is not an official world champion. Okay, they're not recognized. Dean Ambrose, aka Jon Moxley, is only a 3-time world champion. Okay, so the entire summer where he was defending the interim title while Punk had the injured foot, okay, that's not officially recognized as a world title reign. He is only a 3-time champion right now. Okay. That's how it works. Toni Storm, who's currently the interim women's champion for AEW, she's not even recognized as an official champion yet. Okay? So, and we don't know when the official champion's coming back. So, And once, of course, they are healthy enough to come back and defend the title, then they immediately have to face the interim champion in a unification match. But here's a scenario. Here's a scenario, guys. Here's a scenario that will happen at some point. I guarantee you it will happen at some point. That is going to make this whole thing flawed. Okay? What if the AEW World Champion gets injured and is forced to vacate, which means they got to crown an interim champion? Well, they're not going to vacate the title because they'll still hold on to the title while they're on the shelf, and then they'll have a interim champion crowned. What if an interim world champion is crowned, right? And say the official champion is out, okay? While he is out, the interim champion gets injured and is out then. Then what do you do? Are you going to have an interim champion? You get what I'm saying? Like, it's just going to be stupid. It's going to be stupid to have an interim champion, because an interim champion means that you have to defend it against the next, the actual world champion. And when wrestling, you're wrestling every week, it's going to get boring to the audience. This is why the audience doesn't like it. Because it gets boring after a while. It's like, oh, you have this interim label tag. It's just not what people want to see. And this is why I don't think anyone else wanted to do it. AEW tried, but so far, every interim title reign that has happened so far, whether it's the world title, the TNT title, the women's title, really doesn't matter. It's just been flat. It's just been flat. And it just doesn't feel right, really. This is my take on it. This is my rant on it. I don't like it. I don't like the arguments that are positive for it, because I don't think they're that good. They're not strong. I really wish, Tony Khan would just kind of end this and not allow them to do this anymore. Obviously, with the recent stuff with Punk and the Elite, obviously those were the first titles that were officially stripped and not actually crowned interim champions. But that, well, in terms of those stories, I think when Punk does, because Punk will come back, I think they're going to say that Punk is an official champion. It's just that we couldn't say that he was. That's how I think it's going to happen. Well, no, they can do it, because Triple H did it in 2011. Triple H said when Punk left that there was two world champions. There were two WWE champions. When Punk came back, because remember, Vince McMahon originally said that he had been stripped of the title the next night. Then 2 weeks later, they retconned that and said that no, there's two world champions when Punk came back. So I think what's going to happen if Punk comes back, I think they're going to say that that there's two AEW world champions, because Punk never actually lost this title, and then by that point MJF will be the actual champion. I'm assuming, because he'll beat Moxley. And what I think will happen is they'll have their feud that they were supposed to have, following All Out. And it will be a unified, they'll fight for the unified champion. That's my theory. But I do think that will happen. They'll retcon and say that Punk was the AEW champion all along. It's just they could not acknowledge it. And no, but MJF will still be. They'll say that there's two AEW world champions, and then just like how the interim stipulation is, they'll have to, they'll have to fight each other in a match to crown a new champion, and will be at either All Out 1 year later or the pay-per-view after All Out. I think that's what's going to happen. But that's just a little theory on my part, for it, because I do believe Punk will be coming back, one way or the other. I think they'll do the same thing with the Elite too. But I don't really care about the Elite. I care about Punk at this point. So that's what I think they're gonna do. But nonetheless, this video is mainly about the whole interim tag, and again, it puts everyone in a crosshairs. That every time this comes up, we're gonna have to crown an interim champion. And I think they should just not do it anymore. They tried it, doesn't work. Move on, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys like the interim whole tag? Do you think they should just get rid of it? What do you guys think? This is my opinion on it, and my rant on it, because I think it's just not a good idea. Let me know what you guys think. Comment, rate, if you like this video, my videos, please subscribe. And that's about it, guys. I am the SS Ultimate Goku moderator. Peace. Also, make sure, besides my YouTube channel, for subscribing, make sure to follow my Twitch, SS Ultimate Goku, and SS Ultimate Goku and Instagram. I also have a Discord server for discussions for fictional media like wrestling, like sports, like anime, like cartoons, like live action movies, animation movies, and live action TV series. Thank you, and I'm out. Peace.